Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do my full series review of InuYasha by Rumiko Takahashi. These are the Viz Big editions, obviously by Viz. They're 3-in-1s, apart from the two final volumes, 17 and 18, which are 4-in-1s. So there are 56, I believe, volumes in total. I think it's 56. Which is a lot. I'm just going to say this right now. If you were looking for me to be super overly critical and negative about this series, this is not the video for you, because InuYasha, for myself, as well as I know many other people, is a very nostalgic series to me. It is what got me into anime when I was a child. That and Cardcaptor Sakura, but InuYasha has a much bigger influence on my life than Cardcaptors ever did. But yeah, I watched the anime when I was around 8 or 9 years old on, I think it was on YTV at the time in Canada, and fell in love with it, stayed up. I think it was on at like 9 p.m., which was late for me at that age, and I would beg my mom to let me stay up. I don't remember what day of the week it was. It might have been a Thursday. I know it was a school night anyway. Yeah, like, it was everything that I needed in my life, and I continued to love it. I've watched the anime so many times through, and then I read the manga. This is the first time I've read the manga all the way through, actually, because at the time, the original InuYasha anime only covered up to a certain point because the manga wasn't finished yet. And so when the manga was finished, but before the final act came out for the anime, I wanted to know how it ended. And so my library, I think, had... my library at the time at the house I lived at was excellent, and they had so much manga. And so I was very lucky in that way. And so I was able to read the end of the series, but I never actually read the rest of it because I had watched the anime and I just wanted to know how it ended. And then the final act came out and I watched that, and I've seen that many times as well. But anyway, the point of that being that this is the first time I've read the manga all the way through. And it is everything I always wanted it to be. It is everything I've ever needed. I love this series. I would say, if you've never read or consumed InuYasha, that obviously you will not be positively tainted by the nostalgia. Though we are getting re-releases of a lot of Rumiko Takahashi stuff, and people seem to really be enjoying it. So after reading this, and after recently reading Mermaid Saga, which I had never before read, 2-volume omnibus put out by Viz as well, I would say read Mermaid Saga, because it's violent, it's kind of monster of the week almost, but always related to mermaids. But I think it's the one that I've read so far that the most closely relates to InuYasha in terms of the way the story is told. Obviously, InuYasha being 56 volumes is a lot more than like the 4 volumes that Mermaid Saga is, but Mermaid Saga would be a good introduction to Rumiko Takahashi's more action-violent sort of works, to kind of tell if you would be interested in InuYasha. This one is set in feudal Japan for the most part. However, our main character, Kagome, is a 15-year-old third-year middle school student in modern-day Japan, which at the time is in the 90s, that this was beginning to be published. And her family owns a shrine, and there's a well inside the shrine that she falls into, and ends up in feudal Japan. So she's the only one who can travel between this well. Her family can't do it, only she can. She comes across InuYasha, who is a 15-year-old half-demon. When she comes across him, he's like tied to a tree and asleep. And so she goes up to him, and she's, ends up releasing him from this spell that he's in under, and he's kind of violent. He's confused because she looks like this woman named Kikyo, who he used to be in love with, but he's mad at her because she's the one who sealed him on the tree, and it's a whole big thing. There's reincarnation going on. There's demons and all of this stuff, and it's just splendid. So our story starts that way, with them meeting in this weird unorthodox fashion. There is a thing called the Shikon Jewel. It's a round kind of pearl-like jewel that Kagome accidentally shatters into like 100 pieces or something. And the Shikon Jewel is desired by demons because it gives you immense power. And so she's shattered this jewel. InuYasha wants the jewel. He wants to become a full demon rather than just being a half demon. And so the two of them kind of set out to put the jewel back together. And along the way, they pick up a motley crew of various different people. We've got Sango, the 16-year-old demon slayer. We've got 18-year-old Miroku, who is a perverted monk, who constantly just wants to have sex, constantly is trying to get women to sleep with him. He also has this wind tunnel in his hand that is a curse in his family, and he will die one day because of it. It will not only, he can like suck things up with the wind tunnel, but eventually it will consume himself. And so he's trying to track down our main villain, Naraku, who is the one who cursed his family with this wind tunnel. InuYasha wants to hunt down Naraku. Sango wants to hunt down Naraku. We also meet Shippo, who is a fox demon, and he's kind of a less powerful demon, but he's kind of there doing his thing. And yeah, we amass a crew of people who are all hunting down Naraku for various personal reasons, but as the story goes on, obviously their bond grows stronger. Their desire to kill and get rid of Naraku from the world becomes stronger as he himself becomes much more powerful and evil. And it's just such an interesting, well-written adventure tale. It's so much fun. There's comedy, there's tragedy, there's violence, there's perverted fan servicey moments, and what I love about this series are the characters, the heart. Even the villains have so much characteristics to, like, there's so much like character development that happens with our main kind of villains. In particular, you can see on this cover here, this woman's name's Kagura. We've got Kanna, who was my favorite character as a child. All of these other people and demons and whatever that are on Naraku's side for various reasons, mostly because he creates offspring. Like he takes apart like chunks of himself and creates other beings. So a lot of these people, for lack of a better word, are part of Naraku, like physically, and so he's controlling them. He has various control methods, and you get to see the development of these characters who, start off just being kind of soulless, whatever, slaves to Naraku's whims, but slowly start to become more and more into themselves and realizing that they don't want to be controlled anymore and they want to be like an autonomous being. And it's really beautiful and heartbreaking, and it's just lovely. And then even the villains that are legitimately like, yeah, we just want to, break things and kill people and do whatever, even they are exciting to see. My favorite arc of InuYasha has always been the Band of Seven. There's Bankotsu right there, which is just these like seven brothers or male, whatever. I guess they call themselves brothers. I don't know if they're actually related, but and they just like to mess things up. They love to kill people. They love to cause trouble. And Naraku brings them back to life and uses them as kind of pawns in his scheme, and it's so entertaining. One of my favorite characters ever for the longest time was Koga. He's of the Wolf Clan, and he's a wolf demon, and it's lovely. The art, very Rumiko Takahashi art. at first, like as a kid, the reason I didn't actually read the whole series is because I didn't like the art. I was used to the anime, and the manga is a little bit different, and as a kid, I didn't like it. But now, I love this art. I think the character designs are so charming. I think the action scenes are done so well. The other thing about these Vizbigs is if you're concerned about missing out on cover art, don't be. Because at the end of all of the volumes, you have full color. It tells you what volume it is. Original cover art, volume 5, published in April 1998. So it gives you full color cover art for every single cover in the entire series at the end of all the volumes. So you don't have to worry about that. I like how they use different art. Like they didn't just take cover art. They used different art for all of the covers of the Vizbigs, and then they give you the original cover art at the end of the volume. And I think that's just a nice touch. And I love the spines. This series is wonderful. Now I will say, comment I have, particularly I'm thinking of Jikotsu from the Band of Seven. InuYasha falls into the trap that many anime manga do. Maybe not so much anymore, but honestly, I just don't watch this kind of stuff anymore. Of like the obviously gay male villain, and using the effeminate kind of behaviors and whatever, and the fact that, like, in this case, Jikotsu is extremely attracted to InuYasha, and like using that as a like, ew, gross, this villain is gross and ugh, gay, you know, and this person is a villain, so clearly it's painting, you know, queerness as a negative thing. This does fall into that. However, I will say, as a child, as a very queer child, seeing Jikotsu, even though I could understand, I was like, okay, this person's supposed to be bad, they're supposed to be a villain, we're supposed to be laughing at the fact that they're effeminate and laughing at the fact that they're attracted to InuYasha. I honestly, I just fell in love with the character, and do I understand that it is, you know, to a straight audience who wouldn't necessarily care to think about the nuances of it? Do I understand that it's probably problematic? Yes, I do. Do I care? No, because I love that character, and I really love. This is a character that's really stuck with me, and as a kid, like, all I was seeing was representation. Honestly, I was like, yeah, he's gorgeous. He knows that he's gorgeous, and he loves this half-demon dude because he thinks he's hot. And at the time, I was like, yeah, I also think he's hot. So I don't blame Jikotsu for thinking InuYasha's hot. And yeah, so like, that's there. I guess if that's something that's going to bother you, be aware of it. But like, to me, it's another thing I love about the series. Yeah, everything about this, the character development is just so amazing. You see, and it is a romance too. There is legitimate romance and building of feelings that happen throughout the series with various characters. And now I will say, Rumiko Takahashi does tend to like stay on the course of, if there's a gag, she'll tend to reiterate that gag forever, and this is not an exception to that at all. You know, there are a few jokes in like Miroku's womanizing that continue throughout the entire series. You have, you know, Kagome and her kind of relationship with InuYasha in their like bickering that continues, and you can argue like, yeah, it gets tiresome or it gets annoying or whatever, or repetitive, but I think there's enough other character development with these characters that even those things that Rumiko Takahashi decided to keep the same or decided to continue to harp on throughout the series as a joke, even though it may become repetitive, there's enough growth happening with all of these characters in other aspects of their existence that allows you to realize that, okay, they may still be bickering about stupid crap, but they're still growing as people. And we're watching them mature and come into themselves over the course of this journey, because it really spans only about a year of time from the beginning to the end. Despite, like, there is a time skip at the end, but for the most part, the actual main point of the story of them between the jewel shattering and them trying to destroy Naraku is only a year of time for the main story to happen, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, it is very Monster of the Week, like I mentioned earlier. So, you'll spend a few chapters on a different demon that they're trying to defeat or a different shard they're trying to acquire. But it slowly kind of builds and builds and builds, and the arcs get longer, and the enemies become more consistent rather than just like okay, we're fighting this demon this week and this demon next week. It becomes more of like, okay, we're focused on this enemy for a longer period of time. And it's just super entertaining, honestly. I binged through quite a few of the volumes, and then I got stuck because I needed volume 12, and then I got volume 12, and the other day I read volumes 13 through 18, which is like 20 volumes of manga in just those few volumes there, and I read that all in one sitting because I couldn't put it down. We also have Sashomaru, who is a full demon, but he's InuYasha's half-brother, and his character development, don't even get me started on this man. You need to read it. InuYasha is one that is such a classic, and I think that hopefully with more people picking up Rumiko Takahashi works, people who haven't yet had the pleasure of experiencing this series will pick it up and try it out. Like I mentioned, if you're newer to Rumiko Takahashi, I would start with Mermaid Saga if InuYasha is something that interests you, because you'll get a feel for how she tells stories and the violence and whatever, and then I would say, yeah, pick these up. InuYasha's been printed many times by Viz. This is the one that is currently still in print. All of the others are out of print. This is also the only version as of right now that is in the correct Japanese reading direction. All of the other ones were flipped. I do own some of the single, like, yellow spined versions of InuYasha, but I wasn't planning on collecting all 56 volumes of that. This is a space saver, and the art is really lovely in this oversized edition. These pages are nice. If you're okay, like, they're 3-in-1s, they're very heavy as well. You just have to be careful. I've said this before. If you read books like a heathen and you, like, crack them all the way open and you throw them around and you're not, like, gentle with them, then yeah, your books are going to get damaged. But if you're careful when you read, you put it on a pillow while you're reading it, the weight and the fact that you can't, like, crack it all the way open isn't the end of the world. But yeah, it's a wonderful series. I highly recommend reading it. This is one I will forever love. I just can't get enough of it. I've consumed this story so many times, more times than I can count. And, being an adult now, well over a decade, like a decade and a half later, basically, or more than that, I'm almost 25 years old, but, this is one that continues to stick with me, and every once in a while I'll think of, like, Sango or Miroku or InuYasha or Koga or somebody, and a character will pop in my mind, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go read InuYasha, or I gotta go watch InuYasha, and I'll have to read a few chapters or watch a few episodes just to, like, get my fix at least. This is one I will always come back to. It is, it started everything and shaped the trajectory of my anime watching and manga reading career or existence, or whatever you want to say. Yeah. Excellent series. I'm interested to see if Viz is going to re-release these in any new kind of edition, but, like, these aren't out of print right now, whereas all the other stuff that they're printing of Rumiko Takahashi's, all of those have been out of print for a long time. And so I'd be actually a bit surprised if they come out with a new edition of InuYasha now. in this moment. Maybe they'll wait a few years, let these go out of print and then reprint in a different edition. But honestly, I'm happy with this edition. I enjoyed my experience reading from these BizBigs, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. If you have read InuYasha or consumed it, feel free to fan out in the comments and tell me your favorite parts. Tell me your favorite characters or arcs or villains or whatever. I want to hear it. And if you have not read it, I recommend you go do that. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.